You go, oh, quarterback's winning. Quarterback's great. Slow down. So PFF this morning, may have been released last night, but I saw it this morning. They ranked every NFL roster, every single one. And when they ranked Philadelphia number one, it was interesting. Their biggest strength, they said, was defense. The rookie to watch was Jahad Campbell. The X factor this year is Nolan Smith and edge. And their biggest weakness, Jalen Hurts in the passing game. Right? Jalen Hurts in the passing game. And PFF is right. Despite the best O-line in the league, the best running back in the league, arguably after Cincinnati, the best wide receiving combo in the league, excellent tight ends, an offensive head coach, Jalen Hurts can be bad in the pocket. And that's the truth. And I know it hurts, but two things can be true. Jalen Hurts was incredible against the Chiefs in the Super Bowl. And he had fewer touchdown passes last year than Geno Smith, and the same as Kirk Cousins. With much better weapons, a much better run game, a much better offensive line. So Jalen Hurts last year with a stacked roster, to me, is Brock Purdy 2 years ago in San Francisco with a stacked roster. That doesn't make you an A-plus quarterback. Mahomes winning back-to-back Super Bowls with the worst receiving core arguably in the league is A++. Joe Burrow getting to a Super Bowl with the 18th ranked defense and an atrocious O-line. That's an A++ Super Bowl. And winning 2 road playoff games. That's great. Jalen Hurts and Brock Purdy getting to a Super Bowl, winning or losing, with a completely stacked roster, that doesn't make you an A-plus quarterback. Dak Prescott, before he signed his big contract, when he had the best running back in the league, Zeke, arguably, absolutely the best offensive line, offensive coach, good tight end, everybody was like, Dak is A++. You know who thought that too? Jerry Jones. And he overpaid for him. So contextualize it, not banging on Purdy. Purdy 2 years ago had Philadelphia and Jalen Hurts roster. Everybody looks great. The minute last year, Christian McCaffrey's hurt. Debo's hurt. Trent Williams out. Go look at San Francisco's last 10 games. They couldn't win them. And some of them were layups.
Okay. And Jalen Hurts won the Super Bowl and absolutely balled out in multiple Super Bowls. Something that Dak Prescott and Brock Purdy did not do. So what are you talking about right now? Let's contextualize it. Jalen Hurts in 22 did not have Saquon Barkley. So what are you talking about? And he still led that team to the Super Bowl in 23. He did not have a stacked roster. He had a terrible defense. Terrible coordinators. Again, no Saquon Barkley. And he led that team to the playoffs. So what are you saying right now? What are you saying? You want to just count touchdown passes right now? Because oh my god, this is insane. Hurts in 2 Super Bowls has a 73.3% completion percentage. Over 262.5 passing yards, which is well over 300 total yards when you add his 72 or 73 rushing yards per game, where he set the record in both Super Bowls for rushing. He has a 3 touchdowns to 1 interception, a 109.4 passer rating. I don't even understand. I really don't even understand. He's statistically one of the best Super Bowl performers of all time, and it's in 2 Super Bowls. It's not just 1, so 2 is a legitimate sample size in terms of Super Bowls. I'd like it to be 3 or 4, of course, but like 2 it's not a one-off thing. And then what did Brock Purdy do in the Super Bowl? He didn't do this. He didn't do this at all. Saquon Barkley was neutralized in that game in the Super Bowl. Both the running backs in both Super Bowls were neutralized, were non-existent. And again, I've already unpacked this before. We're not doing this again. It wasn't because they sold out to stop Saquon Barkley. That's already been debunked. That's not a thing. It's not a thing that happened. Okay? I don't care how good the offense is or how good the receivers are. Did you see the throws that Jalen Hurts was making again in both Super Bowls? Do you see the intensity and the pressure that they put on Jalen Hurts? Do you see how Jalen Hurts extends his legs? Extends the play with his legs in key, devastating, back-breaking moments? Jalen Hurts did every single thing in said Super Bowl that people believe Patrick Mahomes could do. And in the same Super Bowl, Patrick Mahomes simply could not. When Jalen Hurts experienced the pressure, he was able to extend the play and deliver a strike. When Patrick Mahomes had the pressure, he tried his best to extend the play, and he simply could not. He either simply could not, or he threw interceptions. And when he tried to use his legs to pick up the downs, he got like a yard. Whereas Jalen Hurts would beat the spy, beat the pressure, and would pick up 19 yards and a first down. So just stop with the nonsense. Stop with the roster. Stop with Patrick Mahomes winning Super Bowl. First off, I thought Patrick Mahomes was considered to be one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time. So let's just say that that's true. That's the standard then? That's what we're going to say. It's impressive that Patrick Mahomes was able to win Super Bowl. Yeah, you're right. So like if Jalen Hurts doesn't do that, that means that Jalen Hurts isn't a great quarterback? Like what are we saying here? Not to mention, stop downplaying the defense. Stop downplaying Travis Kelce. Travis Kelce is one of the greatest playoff performers of all time, if not the greatest playoff performer of all time. And we're going to downplay that? You're going to downplay having Andy Reid? I know. Colin Cowherd does not like Nick Sirianni. We know that. All Eagles fans know that. We know he loves Andy Reid. You don't think that matters? Are you serious? You're going to talk about roster construction, but we're going to leave out Andy Reid? We're going to say, well, he does have an offensive head coach. Now, to be fair, I do hate that offensive head coach, and I do think he's a liability, and I thought that he should have been fired, and they should have hired Bill Belichick and his, sugar baby. That would have been great in Philly, let me tell you. But we're going to ignore the fact that he's got Andy Reid, one of the greatest coaches of all time. And Spags, an absolutely brilliant defensive mind. He played the Baltimore Ravens in the AFC Championship game and held the Ravens to 10 points. Spags' defense dominated Tom Brady's undefeated Patriots. They were hanging like 40, 50-point game. It was outrageous what that Patriots team was doing. And they couldn't do anything in the Super Bowl. I think Spags knows what he's doing. I think Spags understands what he's doing. Are we serious right now? Go look up and see what Dak Prescott did in the playoffs against the 49ers. With those great teams. This is outrageous. Absolute, utter insanity. Jalen Hurts in 2023 with bad coordinators, bad defense. He was the sixth ranked quarterback in offensive rating. So I don't understand. And again, you want to say, oh, so-and-so threw more touchdowns than him. Okay, Tua had 29 touchdowns. Patrick Mahomes had 27, so I guess 2 is better. I guess is that what we're doing? Is that what we're saying? Also, it's funny how we say no receivers, yet I'm pretty sure Colin himself has been saying that Rashee Rice is an unbelievable receiver and a true wide receiver one. And yet, and when he got injured, it was like, well, see, they lost him. I guess if he wasn't that good of a receiver, then it wouldn't have mattered that they lost him. Like, I don't understand. I don't understand. It does not make sense. And then in 2024, because again, if we're going to talk about just like touchdown passes and passing yards, because he said before also that Daniel Jones had more passing yards. And it's like, oh, okay. I mean, I guess that's technically true. Are we going to ignore the fact that Jalen Hurts had the 8th best completion percentage? Are we going to ignore that those great wide receivers, A.J. Brown and Devontae, missed many games, and Dallas Goedert? Are we gonna downplay that as well? Because that would be weird. Are we gonna penalize Jalen Hurts for being an unbelievable runner? And again, if we're just gonna say touchdowns and passing yards, well, then let's keep doing the other stats though then. Because Jalen Hurts is top 4 in yards per attempt and passing rating top 5 with 103.7. So I'm a little confused by this. And guess what? Those amazing wide receivers, when you have the adjusted percentage, so this now factors in drops, Jalen Hurts was the most accurate, had the highest completion percentage out of all quarterbacks, 80.1. It's pretty interesting. Pretty interesting. And are we going to take away the other wildly important part of being a quarterback? You know, their legs. Are we going to take away the fact that, first off, Jalen Hurts only played, it says 15, but he only played 14 games because he obviously was knocked out of that first game. Had 630 yards and 14 touchdowns. No, they were not all tush push. Tush push, tush push. It's all the tush push. Really? Then why does he have so many yards after contact? Why is he top 3 in yards after contact? Does he just get 1 yard after the tush push and then he just magically is able to get more yards? Like, did they do the tush push 328 times? I don't think so. Yeah, I don't think so. I mean, how about scramble yards? Just completely off script. Again, remember, he played less games than Baker, Caleb, Josh Allen, and he was at 368. Not hard to imagine that he would have been top 3, top 2. I mean, it's just, I just don't get it. I mean, Jalen Hurts in 2021, when he did not have a great run game, when he did not have a great, he had a rookie Devontae. Jalen Hurts, rushing grades, had the most rushing yards in the NFL. 784. Had the most touchdowns, 10. Offensive player, 11. So just shy of top 10. Again, first year starter. In terms of running, top 5. And we really have to kind of take out like Zach Wilson and Taysom Hill. So really like top 3. Because it's not like the actual equivalent. You're talking, Zach Wilson had 188 rushing yards. Jameis Winston had 166, so that's where the grading can be a little skewed. If you were running like a real analysis, you would be removing them, obviously. So I really don't understand. Jalen Hurts, again, top 3 in yards after contact. He led the league with 29 10-plus runs. And if you want to say, well, I thought we were talking about the passing game. No one's saying that he's not a good runner. Guys, being quarterback is everything. You don't think the 70-plus yards in both Super Bowls was absolutely crucial? Are we only allowed to praise Patrick Mahomes, Lamar Jackson, and Josh Allen for their mobility? But like for Jalen Hurts, we want to say, well, yes, I concede that Joe Burrow is absolutely, undeniably, 1,000%, not a shadow of a doubt, a better passer than Jalen Hurts. I am so confident saying that, and I'm very comfortable saying that. Very comfortable saying that. But what does that mean in 2025 right now? What does that mean? In 2024, Joe Burrow had the 25th ranked defense, 25.5 points per game. And I've defended him and said his defense was awful, etc., etc. Their offense wasn't the problem. Could still not get into the playoffs and won 9 games. Jalen Hurts, with just as bad of a defense, and actually relative to the rest of the NFL, was 30th. He won 11 games with a coordinator who ended up being fired. Yeah. That's pretty interesting. Now, Joe Burrow definitely threw for more yards. Definitely. Without a doubt. He had Jamar Chase and T. Higgins and blah, 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 blah. Jalen Hurts didn't have Saquon Barkley. He didn't have that. In 2023, they got 1,000 yards from Swift. Are we going to act like that's, just lighting the league on fire? Are we serious? In 2021, Jalen Hurts was the leading rusher for the Philadelphia Eagles. Miles Sanders, 754 yards. I mean, I don't understand. I really, really don't. And that was him as a first-year starter. His number one receiver was a rookie wide receiver. I mean, they had the 18th ranked defense in 2021. So it's not like this was like a defensive-led team. And as I've showed you before, stop pretending like Jalen Hurts just has an absolute brick wall of an O-line that he can just do whatever he wants. These statistics, especially because you want to just use passing yards or just these regular cold numbers as a reference to how great a quarterback is, well, then let's do it for the O-line. This is pass block win rate and run block win rate. Like, this is just sheerly 100% on the O-line. There's a strict cutoff point, so it has nothing to do with the quarterback holding on to the ball for too long or anything like that. It's strictly, can you stop the man in front of you? I mean, it's incredibly binary. It really is. It's actually increasingly becoming one of my more favorite stats. I just want to more deeply digest it and understand it before I really bring even more conviction than I already have with it. And they were ranked 6th and 9th. Okay? So there were plenty of other teams that have had better. And I've already went through the historical context because we can see the rankings don't even really matter. You can really look at the percent, 67% of the time, 72% of the time. And I look back on years past and showed you that Patrick Mahomes in years past and other quarterbacks in years past had better O-line. Their O-line was better at stopping the pressure reach their quarterback at a higher rate than what they do for Jalen Hurts. So this whole idea that this has been so wildly historical for the Philadelphia Eagles, that Jalen Hurts just has all day, every day, it's just ridiculous. The Minnesota Vikings had a higher win rate. Let's just do passing. Had a higher win rate. The Denver Broncos, the Buffalo Bills and Josh Allen, the Baltimore Ravens and Lamar Jackson. So just stop. It's absurd. And like I showed you before, because everyone kept saying, well, Patrick Mahomes, Super Bowl, pressures. When you actually crunch the math, and I don't have it right now, so we'll have to do it a little bit looser. Jalen Hurts was pressured 177 times. And when you do the math, he's actually pressured at a similar rate per drop back than Patrick Mahomes, the guy who everyone said the reason why they lost is because of their O-line. So it's just absurd. You would think that Jalen Hurts was like all the way at the bottom here, and he's not. Now, does he drop back less? Yes, but he runs significantly more and gets significantly more yards for his team. So it's like, again, what are we doing here? And you're going to penalize Jalen Hurts for having a great run game? It just doesn't make sense. It does not make sense at all. At all. Jalen Hurts in 2023 was top 3 in pressure with a similar O-line. He was pressured 248 times. 248 times. That's more times than Patrick Mahomes was in 2024. But wait a second. Did anyone say that it was, Patrick Mahomes 212? Did anyone say last year or in 2023 that Jalen Hurts deserves an excuse because of pressure? I don't remember. But he lost in the playoffs. A.J. Brown wasn't there. He didn't have a wide receiver. And Jalen Hurts also dislocated his finger and had a fired offensive coordinator and terrible defense. I don't understand. I mean, again, if we want to have these conversations, then let's have these conversations. I'm for it. I'm ready for it. I'm prepared. I'm ready to get after it. Let's have the conversations. I mean, it's just insane. And the fact that we want to downplay also the greatness that he's been able to do in the playoffs and what he's been able to do, especially in the Super Bowls. Like last time I checked, that's really important. You can talk about these other quarterbacks. Talk about Stafford, who I think is special. Talk about Joe Burrow, who I think is special. Obviously, let's leave Patrick Mahomes and Tom Brady out, but we can bring in Patrick Mahomes to the party because he hasn't been so great in some Super Bowls. And he's got to go against, he's won 2 Super Bowls against Jimmy Garoppolo and Brock Purdy, 2 quarterbacks who Colin himself concedes that he believes are not good quarterbacks. So since when are beating those quarterbacks impressive at all? Well, he beat Lamar Jackson too. Yeah, where his defense held them to 10 points. Do you know how insane that is? To hold someone as great as Lamar Jackson to 10 points. I mean, it's mind-blowing. And then the same year, they got to beat, on the road against Tua Tagovailoa? Like, really? You're going to talk about beating Tua? Well, actually, they didn't even beat Tua on the road, did they? They got to beat Tua at home. Oh, God. It just makes my head hurt that you want to use examples that don't even logically then make sense with your own logic. Just, oh, my God. Jalen Hurts or Patrick Mahomes was able to win 2 Super Bowls with missing receivers or whatever. And it's like, okay, but one of those teams was against the Eagles, who you think that Jalen Hurts then is not a good quarterback. So, like, under your logic, then Patrick Mahomes has never beaten an actual good quarterback in the Super Bowl. And when he beats them in the playoffs, the actual good quarterbacks, you just conceded that those teams weren't good, that Joe Burrow has to do so much with a bad team. Like, do you understand that's where the logic then gets messy? You have to play the logic all the way through. Oh, my goodness. Oh, my goodness. You know what's also really funny and interesting? Oh, I love this. I love that I just thought of this. Joe Burrow. To be clear, I think he's a great quarterback. Joe Burrow. 70% completion percentage. 34 touchdowns, 14 interceptions, offensive rating of 91.7. And Stafford, these are the 2 quarterbacks who made it to the Super Bowl. 67.2 completion percentage, 41 touchdowns, 17 interceptions, and an 80.7 rating. In terms of offensive rating. And we can look at their passer rating for the year, 108.3 and 102.9. That was during the regular season. What did they do during the Super Bowl? Their completion percentage went down. That's weird. Oh, Matthew Stafford, 2 interceptions. That's weird. Joe Burrow, only 1 touchdown, 0 interceptions. Offensive rating, 78.7, 60.2. That's weird. Seems like their numbers are all going down. Passer rating, 89.9. And 100.9. That's weird. Brock Purdy in 2023, 88.4 offensive rating. 31 touchdowns, 11 interceptions, 9.6 yards per attempt, a 69.4 completion percentage, and a passer rating of 113. I wonder what he did in the Super Bowl. 60% completion percentage. That seems less. 6.7 yards per attempt. That seems less. Only 1 touchdown. That seems less. 73.9 offensive rating. That seems less. and a passer rating of 89.3. Well, that seems less. Let's compare that to what Jalen Hurts has done. Jalen Hurts. Good old J Money. You guys may have heard of him. He's a pretty good quarterback. Jalen Hurts had a 76.3 rating, offensive rating. Had 8.0 yards per attempt, 18 touchdowns to 5 interceptions, and a 68.7 completion percentage, and a 103.7 passer rating. And that doesn't even show the rushing stats, obviously. That's too much work. Can't do it. But then in the Super Bowl, 10 yards per attempt, 86.7 rating, a 77.3 completion percentage, and a 119.7 passer rating. My dear friends, what does that tell us? That those other quarterbacks that you mentioned as being better actually get worse in the biggest games when they matter most. And Jalen Hurts in the biggest games actually gets better. Actually, literally, statistically, and just eye test, plays better. And yet we are going to somehow downplay that. We are going to pretend like that's not a thing. Not to mention that some of these other quarterbacks are going up against inferior teams, against inferior defenses. We're really going to compare the Bengals defense in the Super Bowl or the Rams defense in the Super Bowl and compare that to the Kansas City Chiefs defense? Really? Really? The same defense that held Lamar Jackson to 10 points? Oh, madness. That's just funny. That is funny. And you know what also is really funny? Because he talks about this whole thing is PFF said that their passing game is their worst part. Guys, PFF also has Jalen Hurts as ranked 5. They have him above Matthew Stafford and Justin Herbert and all the other guys that Colin loves. So like, what are we? So yes, when you have an awesome defense, an awesome O-line, awesome run game, etc., something has to be technically, not as great as the others. You're not going to get A+ across the board. Do I think that the Eagles are at their best when they're asking Jalen Hurts to just throw the ball nonstop? No, I do not. But like I had just made in a previous video, I showed you all the times. You know what? I'll just do it again. Again, in 2023, the Philadelphia Eagles asked him to throw 45, 38, 37, 33, 31. The vast majority of his games outside of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and I think that was the game that he maybe got knocked out of when he only threw 16 times, or I think they just ended he just came out of the game because I think it was the final game of the season. He had to throw 25 or more times. The vast majority were 30 or more times, and they won 11 games with a bottom barrel defense. So I don't understand. And it's not like these are terrible completion percentages either. 63, 76, 65, 67, 66. Yeah, you got a bunch of clunkers in there. So does Josh Allen. So does Lamar Jackson. So does Joe Burrow. So does Patrick Mahomes. So does Stafford. I mean, again, I think Matthew Stafford is a special quarterback. I really do. And when Matthew Stafford had a bunch of injured weapons, he was terrible. Okay? 72.4 passing rating, 74.7 offensive rating, 20 touchdowns, 8 interceptions, 3,700 yards. And that's and to be clear, a bunch of those stats are obviously with Puka Nacua and Cooper Kupp and Sean McVay. And a 65.8 completion percentage. So, if you want to say that the Staffords of the world and the Burrows of the world could still have a pretty good passing game, even if they didn't have like a stacked roster or whatnot, and they can do so better than maybe a Jalen Hurts, it's like, okay. And if you want to say that a Joe Burrow or a Stafford would be able to take advantage more of having a elite like receiving weapons, whether it's a tight end, wide receiver, taking advantage of a running back who could catch the ball more, I'm okay with that too. But to say that those guys would somehow like win more or be better with like a stacked roster doesn't make sense when we saw some of these players with, again, great offenses especially, and we saw Jalen Hurts now with great offenses, and they set the record. Like, it's funny, people said before, oh, if Josh Allen was with the Eagles, or if Dak Prescott, all these other quarterbacks were with the Eagles, they'd be amazing. And it's like, oh, you mean like set the record for the most points scored ever in playoff history? Like, you mean scored the most amount of points in a conference championship game in the history of the NFL? Averaging like 35 points per game or whatever the final score was. Jalen Hurts being the only player in NFL history ever to do this. Is the only quarterback in NFL history to do all the following in any single game. Throw for 200 plus yards, rush for 70 plus yards, throw multiple touchdown passes, rush for a touchdown, complete 75% of his passes, average 10 plus yards per attempt, and win the game. And he did it in the Super Bowl. And you want to say that's all because of the roster around him? Like, that makes any sense? I mean, how about this? You realize the Baltimore Ravens are top of the league with most Pro Bowlers and most All-Pros. No one's going to act like the Ravens have been bad teams. What about this? First 5 years. Jalen Hurts. More passing yards per game. More total touchdowns. Actual Super Bowl title. This graphic was made before the Super Bowl. It's not even mentioning that it should actually be 2 Super Bowl appearances. Now, to be fair, I do think this is more about the Eagles franchise than anything. But Jalen Hurts has been to more Super Bowls than Josh Allen, Joe Burrow, Lamar Jackson, and Justin Herbert combined. And he beat Patrick Mahomes in the Super Bowl to win the Super Bowl. He now has more Super Bowl wins than all of those. He has the same, I guess he has the same number of Super Bowl wins than all of those quarterbacks have Super Bowl appearances combined, because it's just Joe Burrow. Like, Jalen Hurts doesn't get any of this. He doesn't benefit from this at all. 145 points, most points scored in a single postseason NFL history. That's not because of him at all. He has no, he doesn't, he's not part of that at all. He just benefits from it. I mean, Jalen Hurts is the first system quarterback. Jalen Hurts is the first system quarterback who has never had the same system. He's had 11 different play callers since his freshman year of college. For your viewing pleasure. Ben Johnson came out and said that he believes that EPA, a more advanced analytic, is the most important stat for quarterbacks. That really is what shows, how great you are and, how much you contribute to winning. And Colin was like, yeah, definitely. Ben Johnson's really smart. EPA, the real football nerds love it, etc., etc. And then Jalen Hurts has the highest EPA in Super Bowl history. And that was because of the team around him. That doesn't make sense because it's specific for the quarterback. So yeah, I mean, I don't even know. I mean, I feel like I've made this video so many times before. When I did that whole deep dive comparing Jalen Hurts and Patrick Mahomes and what Jalen Hurts has had and what Patrick Mahomes has had, and I completely debunked that with the O-line and the defense that Patrick Mahomes has had, and Travis Kelce's and the Rashee Rice and the Tyree Kelce, like all this type of stuff, the Andy Reeds, and just this whole idea that some of these other quarterbacks are doing everything with nothing, and that Jalen Hurts is doing it with everything. Listen, the reality is the quarterbacks that were drafted to the two best possible spots that anyone could be drafted to, the reality is it was Patrick Mahomes and Jalen Hurts. That is the cold reality. I do believe if Josh Allen was drafted to the Philadelphia Eagles, his whole career would be wildly different. Same thing with Lamar Jackson. And I think if Patrick Mahomes got drafted to the Philadelphia Eagles, Patrick Mahomes would have a ton of success as well. And if Jalen Hurts got drafted to the Kansas City Chiefs, would have a ton of success as well. I think really if any quarterback got drafted to the Chiefs and the Eagles, they would be in better positions to win. They would be Super Bowl winners. I mean, we can see that. But to use that to just constantly pull down Jalen Hurts is just pretty insane when we've seen other quarterbacks in great situations and literally, historically, not do what Jalen Hurts has done. I can get it if Jalen Hurts won a Super Bowl or kept winning and he was playing poorly. I could understand that. I think Jalen Hurts sneakily played a great game against the Packers, which I've talked about before. And I broke all that down, when it actually mattered, it's not relevant anymore. But I would be more open to even if he played that type of game and they won the Super Bowl. I would be okay. It's almost like when Patrick Mahomes threw multiple interceptions in the Super Bowl against Jimmy Garoppolo and still won, Or when he had a passer rating of 53 or something and threw 0 touchdowns and 2 interceptions or something and still won against the 49ers. That's what it would kind of remind me of. If Jalen Hurts did that, then I could say, okay, you know what? We got to zoom in a little bit more to try to show you how great Jalen Hurts is. But he didn't do that. You say that he has a stacked roster, and he led that roster to literally record-breaking performances, both collectively as a team and him individually. I mean, he essentially did something that Tom Brady couldn't even do when you really think about it. Tom Brady undeniably had a better roster, I suppose, when he went undefeated. And in the Super Bowl against the same coordinator, against what should be an inferior team, the New York Giants, with Eli Manning, Jalen Hurts was better. Now, it's a tougher comparison. Well, not the 2016, 2007, whatever the heck year it was. It's just no matter how you slice it. No matter how you slice it. It's just wild. It's just wild. Again, I'm not saying this is where I'm going to close it because this video already went so long. I got so many other videos I got to make. I just did not see this one coming. I'm not trying to act like Jalen Hurts is the greatest quarterback under the sun. I'm not trying to act like I would pick Jalen Hurts over every other quarterback out there. I'm not saying that at all. I can criticize Jalen Hurts. I could have concerns about Jalen Hurts. I could point out that I think Jalen Hurts needs to be better here, there, etc., etc. But you gotta stop downplaying what he's been able to bring this team. You gotta stop pretending that he doesn't offer the Philadelphia Eagles a tremendous amount, that he hasn't been the defining difference in both Super Bowls. And we can't pretend like suddenly playing amazing in big games is somehow nothing. It's just ridiculous. You said that the Philadelphia Eagles wouldn't even make it to the red zone. Virtually nobody was giving the Philadelphia Eagles a chance Many people said the winner of the Bills versus the Chiefs is the Super Bowl champion. And that fundamentally ended up being wildly incorrect. And the reality is if Jalen Hurts played like Patrick Mahomes played in the Super Bowl, the Eagles probably would have lost. And in fact, like I said earlier, Jalen Hurts played the way that you believe Patrick Mahomes to play in these big Super Bowl moments. And yet he hasn't. Patrick Mahomes has never played a Super Bowl as great as Jalen Hurts has in 2 of his Super Bowls. In either of his 2 Super Bowls, Patrick Mahomes has never, ever played as great as Jalen Hurts has. That's just a fact. That's just the reality of the situation. And yet, Patrick Mahomes has been able to go up against more inferior teams than Jalen Hurts has had. How do I know this? Because everyone tells me that the Kansas City Chiefs are the greatest team in the history of the universe. And it happens to be the 2 teams that, the 2 years that Jalen Hurts had to go up against them. But those are just my thoughts. I'd absolutely love to hear yours if you made it this long. What do you guys all think about the Philadelphia Eagles? And the biggest weakness just being Jalen Hurts. Not that good. Trust Hurts to lead Philly back to the Super Bowl. I know if the Eagles don't go back to 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 back, it's proof. It's proof Jalen Hurts and the Philadelphia Eagles. It was a fluke. Jalen Hurts really isn't that good. I know it's proof. They have to win the Super Bowl again to prove everyone. They have to do something that none of these other quarterbacks except for like Mahomes and Brady have done. He has to prove it. He has to prove that he can do it. Peyton Manning didn't have to do it. Brett Favre, none of these other quarterbacks had to do it, but Jalen Hurts has to do it. He has to be the one to do it to prove to everyone. But let me know in the comments below. I read every single comment, so whether you agree with me or disagree with me. Either way, let's get in some discussions. Let's get in some fights. But ultimately, let's just have some fun. And please do consider subscribing. We are building an amazing community here, and I absolutely love to see you part of it. I want to build something that we all genuinely feel connected to. Something that we're really excited to be part of. I think we're on our way to doing it. Please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, as it really does help with the visibility and the algorithm. Thank you so much. See you next time.